Hello, I'm Edward October. Over the years, I've narrated more ghost stories, horror shows, and creepypastas than I can count. And yet, the crimes discussed on our true crime podcast managed to scare the shit out of me. This program is not suitable for children or the faint of heart. If you are such a person, go ahead and switch off this podcast. Listen to something else. Are you still with us? Well, we've warned you.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Cam. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
That sounds a little happy for Sunday, I must say.
I am. It's fun.
I don't believe it.
Life has changed since my daughter got her driver's license. Now I'm
Freedom.
kind of free. Yeah, she's free and I'm free. It's great.
It's amazing. It is amazing.
And
changes.
Yeah, it is.
Good stuff.
What you got for us this week?
Woo-wee. It's a something. You ready to go?
Yep, let's hear it.
It all started with Jennifer.
Woo! Of course it does.
Yeah.
The world revolves around Jennifer.
That's right. Who was the third child of Mary and Joe, joining siblings Barbara and Joe Jr. back in December of 1971. Little Jennifer was not a healthy child and unfortunately passed away on January 3rd, 1972 from meningitis. This news hit Mary and Joe hard, but especially Mary, who had just lost her father in October. So that was a mere 2 months earlier that she had already had tragedy strike. Perhaps it was the stress that ignited a slow burning fire into a firestorm, or maybe it was always inside and just had not appeared until now. Whatever the reason, there would be a trail of death with one person responsible for them all. Yet time and time again, the person was left to do it again and again. Just 17 days after Jennifer died on January 20th, 1972, Joe Jr. was brought into the Ellis Hospital ER room in Schenectady, New York. 2-year-old Joe Jr. was brought in by his mother, Marybeth Tinning, who claimed that the boy had a seizure. Doctors examined the little boy, and when they found nothing wrong with him, they sent them both home. A few hours later, Marybeth came back to the ER with Joe Jr., but this time, he was dead. Marybeth would tell the doctors that when they got home, she put him to bed, and when she went to check on him, he was blue. This is something, let me tell you.
Breaks my heart. The babies are the hardest.
Only 6 weeks later, Marybeth was back in that same ER with her 4-year-old daughter, Barbara. Marybeth told the doctors that the girl had been having convulsions. Doctors demanded that Barbara stay the night in the hospital. They wanted to observe her, but Marybeth would not allow it and took her daughter home. Just hours later, she was back with Barbara, but this time she was unconscious. The doctors tried to revive the child, but it was too late. Barbara would die. Marybeth would tell authorities that everyone was asleep and she heard Barbara call out to her. And when she got to Barbara's room, she was convulsing. Unable to be sure what killed Barbara, doctors thought it might be Rye syndrome. Now, at that time, not much was known about Rye syndrome because it had just first been, documented, described, pointed out, would be a better word, in 1963. But it was related to giving aspirin to young children.
Giving aspirin? Yeah.
All 3 of Marybeth and Joe's children were gone. Now, while Jennifer was born a sickly baby, the other 2 children were very healthy. Friends and family were shocked to find out that Marybeth was pregnant the following year. While everyone wanted happiness for the couple, they worried that perhaps something genetic was at play, and why in the world would they risk that with another child? Timothy made his appearance on Thanksgiving Day, 1973. Timothy would be sent home with his mother just 2 days later. Just 3 weeks later, Marybeth was back at the hospital with Tim, who had passed. Marybeth told the doctors that he was dead in his crib when she went to get him. His death at the time was blamed on SIDS, which, as you know, is sudden infant death syndrome. Now, the term was first proposed in 1969 in order to focus attention on a subgroup of infants with similar clinical features whose deaths occurred unexpectedly in the postnatal period. Today, SIDS refers to an infant death in a seemingly healthy baby under 1 year of age, whose death remains unexplained. Now, at this point, Jen, probably 2 children ago, but okay. At this point, you have to be thinking, why in the world is it someone becoming suspicious or at the very least curious as to why such tragedies continue to happen to this family?
Yeah, I keep expecting you to say, well, a nurse at the hospital got... Yeah, I keep thinking you're saying that, but...
So mind you, we're at 4 babies. 4 babies so far.
Is she going to different hospitals?
No, not yet.
No?
But she
not yet?
She will.
Okay. She's not shopping around. Okay, I gotcha.
Yet again,
people are
Jen,
not paying attention. Sleep at the wheel, if you will.
This was early 70s, and so maybe this thing wasn't seen as much. I'm not sure.
Don't know. Or they don't want to think that a woman is capable of doing such a horrible thing.
Yet they are. We talk about that later, but here we go.
Okay.
Yet again, Marybeth would give birth on March 30th, 1975, to baby Nathan, the couple's 5th child. Just 5 months later, Marybeth arrived, now it's a different hospital, at St. Clair's Hospital with little Nathan wrapped up in her arms, dead. Once again, doctors could not determine the cause of death. Marybeth would tell them that she was in the car driving when she just looked over. He's in the front seat, by the way, because this is the 70s. So she looked over and noticed that Nathan had quit breathing in his car seat, in the car, which is important because we'll point that out later. In August 1978, Marybeth and Joe applied to adopt a baby. That's right, they're going to adopt a baby. After they had applied to adopt a baby, Marybeth found out she was pregnant again and decided to go ahead and follow through with the adoption as well. So Michael was brought home from the agency, and just 2 months later, Mary Frances was born. Marybeth rushed 4-year-old Mary Frances to St. Clair's emergency room and told doctors the baby was having seizures. Doctors worked hard to get the baby stabilized, and they did, but we know what's coming. On February 20th, Marybeth once again returned to the hospital with Mary Frances, who was brain dead. Now, at this point, you have to wonder what the heck is going on and why hasn't anyone discovered anything here? Because this is number 2 at the same hospital.
Now, just to be clear, Marybeth was her blood by blood, baby. Right? Not the adopted.
Yes.
Okay,
nope,
she was...
Yeah. The adopted one's coming up, Jen.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I had that correctly. Marybeth was her
Mary Frances was
daughter.
hers.
Mary Frances.
Yes.
Okay.
All of these are her biological.
Gotcha.
Joe and Marybeth's kids. Okay. All of them so far. Since Mary Frances's death was not glaringly obvious, once again, her death was chalked up to SIDS. Now, I know you're going to be a little shocked here, but Marybeth got to work. Got pregnant once again. Jonathan was born on November 19th. This would be her 7th child. 7th child.
The only one, none of them has lived past a certain age, correct?
Nope.
Yeah.
The only one living so far.
Can you imagine the talk at the bridge club that's going, oh, poor Marybeth.
Well, and the only one that's lived is the adopted child.
I know.
So Jonathan would be her 7th birth. Their adopted son, Michael, who was 13 months old, was thriving. So maybe, just maybe, things were turning around. You know, maybe it was a genetic thing. Maybe Michael's going to be just fine.
Maybe pigs fly. We don't know. We haven't seen it yet.
Marybeth showed up once again at St. Clair's Hospital with Jonathan, who was her birth baby, unconscious in March of 1980. Doctors worked hard to revive him, and they did. This time, the doctors did something a little different. They sent the baby to Boston Hospital. They were not going to dare send that baby back home with Marybeth. So at Boston Hospital, Jonathan was examined by the very best of the best, and they were perplexed as to what would be causing him to have this condition. Unable to find anything, the baby was sent back home to his parents. Just a few days later, on March 24th, 1980, Marybeth was back at the hospital with a brain-dead Jonathan.
Oh, jeez. These poor babies.
Now, at this point, something is about to happen that would make authorities finally take notice. Since all the children who passed were biologically Marybeth's and Joe's, the theory was established that all their deaths were caused from some sort of genetic defect. Especially since little Michael was doing so well. Or was. March 2nd, 1981, Marybeth showed up at Michael's pediatrician's office. Now, think this out here. Michael's pediatrician office with a 2.5-year-old Michael. Marybeth would tell the doctors that when she went to wake him for the day, he was unconscious. By the time Marybeth had arrived at the doctor's office, Michael had already died. Now, do you notice anything different here? An ER hospital is open 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
A pediatrician's office is not. So she waited for them to open up for them to see Michael. An autopsy was performed on Michael, and while there were small traces of a chemical in his body, it was not enough to kill him. So finally at this point, people are starting to notice things that, like, why would Marybeth take the boy to the doctor's office and wait for it to open instead of rushing him to the hospital located right across the street? Did I say that? That's right. Their house was located right across the street from St. Clair's Hospital.
Very suspicious.
And, that with all the other babies, she had rushed them to the hospital. This one she waited. So at this point, here's where the nurses come in, Jen. Nurses and doctors are whispering about Marybeth's strange demeanor. They made note of that, she didn't act like a mother who's just losing babies left and right. But sadly, for everybody else, Marybeth was not done yet. At age 42, Marybeth gave birth to her 8th child, Tammy Lynn, on August 2nd, 1985. It was December of that same year that once again, Marybeth would find Tammy Lynn unresponsive on the changing table. The baby was blue and not breathing. EMS was called to the home where they rushed Tammy Lynn to the hospital, and she was pronounced dead. This time, the staff knew something was not right, as they were all too familiar with Marybeth and this routine. Once again, just like the others before, an autopsy failed to provide a reason for the death of little Tammy Lynn. And again, it was listed as sudden infant death syndrome.
It's just unreal. Seriously.
No words.
No, it's like they had a new name for something and they just want to slap it on everything,
And it's 2 hospitals. All these babies killed by the same parents or, died from the same parents at 2 hospitals.
Yeah.
Statistically, that's not
very frustrating.
Normal. Police decided it was time to have a little chat with Marybeth and Joe. They arrive at their home and find Marybeth pretty unfazed by it all. After answering the door, she said, "I know what you're here for." She tells them, "You're going to arrest me and take me to jail." What? Not really the response you would get from a grieving mother. When you have a little guilt on your mind, maybe little feeling a little guilty.
Mm-hmm. As she should. Hello, 7 kids. Her own flesh and blood? Come on.
No, more than 7. Do your math, but we'll get back to that. Marybeth Rowe was born on September 11th, 1942, about 10 miles south of Schenectady, New York, to Ruth and Alton Lewis Rowe. Her childhood was a bit rough as she was shuffled around to various people that ended up raising her. Her father, who was in the service, settled finally down as a press operator in nearby General Electric, which, as we know, is a huge corporation. Marybeth attended Duanesburg High School and graduated in 1961. Marybeth had planned to go to college, but that was not to be. So after working various jobs, she ended up becoming a nurse's assistant at Ellis Hospital in Schenectady, New York. That same Ellis Hospital where she took her first babies. In 1963, she met Joe Tinning on a blind date with some friends. Now, maybe it's just me, but there's kind of signs. There were some signs along the way that kind of showed that things weren't all the way.
Sun everywhere, sun. Yep, there sure is.
It was in 1974 that her husband, Joe Tinning, became violently ill. He was rushed to the hospital, and it was determined that he had overdosed on barbiturates. Now, I know you're wondering, what the heck happened? Well, it seems that later, both of them had admitted that their marriage was not a good spot, and Marybeth had taken fancy to spicing up his grape juice by putting pills in it. She was poisoning him.
It's very sweet.
Poisoning him. Now, I have to think this would be a valid reason to leave the marriage, but not old Joe, Jen. He said, quote, "You have to believe the wife." And he stayed.
Poor Joe.
Poor Joe. Now, at Tammy Lynn's funeral, people noticed how Marybeth seemed so carefree. She was laughing and chatty, not the traditional behavior you would expect from a grieving mother. It seemed that the death of Tammy Lynn started to raise some questions. Started?
Started, exactly.
Friends and family started calling a tip line to tell police officers things and to share their suspicions. The famous Dr. Michael Baden, you say Baden, right? Not Baden, it's Baden.
I think it's
right?
Baden, Dr. Baden, yeah.
The famous
he seems
doctor,
like a nice guy, doesn't he? Like on the TV shows?
Yeah, I think so.
Kind of goofy, kind of, yeah.
So he was brought in to consult on the case by this Schenectady police chief, Richard E. Nelson. Now, he clarified a few things, such as it's not possible that SIDS would strike one family this much. Adding also that babies with SIDS, they do not turn blue, and that a baby that turns blue is not getting air. SIDS babies, sadly, just stop breathing. And, turning blue indicates that you're choking or you're not getting oxygen. With Reye's syndrome, the illness is not sudden, meaning the children should have symptoms indicating that they were not well for a time up to when they would be diagnosed. Family and friends had commented that all their children were healthy before death. The main issue was that with each death, a clear cause could not be established in their death. Several police agencies all gather in Albany, New York, to take a closer look at the family who has lost, here's your math, Jen, 9 babies. 9 babies, 1 adopted, 8 biological. Marybeth needed to be talked to again, and they needed for her to break. And on February 4th, 1986, Schenectady Police Detective Bob Onfeld and State Police Investigator Joseph Karras went to Marybeth and asked her to come into the station, clear a few things up. You don't want this gossip going around. You don't want people talking. Just come on, we'll just get this out of the way. Marybeth complied. She was being given her Miranda rights, and she's like, it's okay. So she began talking. She waved him off. Marybeth maintained she had nothing to do with any of her children's 9 deaths. In regards to Tammy Lynn, Marybeth claimed that on the night she put her baby to bed, she was crying. Marybeth then went to watch some TV, and when she came back to check on the baby, Tammy Lynn was not breathing. She called the ambulance and attempted to revive her until they got there. She then woke up her husband. This is a story.
Then woke up her husband after the ambulance got there?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you. So this is where I say there's just a few things off with the story as she told it. The first thing is that each time one of her children has an issue, it was Marybeth and Marybeth alone with the child. The other thing is that of her 9 children, 6 died from SIDS, or so they thought. But like I said earlier, with SIDS, babies die in the crib. They don't turn blue. They don't have seizures. They simply pass. And the other thing is, with SIDS deaths, the babies are in their crib. They're not in the car seat like baby Nathan. Detectives tried to revisit each of the children's deaths, but Marybeth had forgotten many of the details. Let's say that again. Your child dies, and she forgot many of the details. Or her story was not like the original one she had told when it first happened. Police decided to change their tactic, and they brought in an investigator by the name of William Barnes to talk to Marybeth. William had known Marybeth since she was a kid, and he brought the pressure. After several hours, Marybeth caved. Marybeth would say she didn't kill all her children, just Tammy Lynn, Nathan, and Timothy.
Oh, just them?
Just the 3.
Yeah.
She would later say that Jennifer, Joe Jr., Barbara, Michael, Mary Frances, and Jonathan all died, but not by her hand.
Okay.
Tammy Lynn, Nathan, and Timothy were all smothered with a pillow. And when asked why she did this, she said, because I'm not a good mother. I'm not a good mother because of the other children. After her confession, her husband was asked to report to the police station. Joe asked to see Marybeth, and after a few minutes, she confessed to him that she had killed the children. He was silent. In her statement, Marybeth would maintain that she only harmed the 3 children by suffocating them. Marybeth would relate what happened the night Tammy Lynn was killed. She said Tammy started crying in her crib, and as she was starting to fall asleep on the couch, it annoyed her, right? So Marybeth was annoyed because her baby daughter is crying as she's falling asleep. When she couldn't get little Tammy Lynn to stop, she took a pillow from the couch and put it on her face until she was silent. Now, here's where you can see the premeditation or clear awareness of what she was doing.
Can I just go back here for a second? Joe was silent. Like, Joe didn't suspect that his wife was killing the babies, even though there was an attempt on his life also?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just,
Okay, just checking.
You
He had to
heard-
have known. He had
you
to
heard that
suspect.
right.
He might not have wanted to say it out loud or even think it, but he had to have. He had to have.
9 babies.
9.
And
yeah.
10, if you count him, he was a victim too there. So
Thank you. Yeah, he had. Okay. I'm sorry. Go on.
it's okay. After she had smothered the baby, Marybeth, now think about this, took the pillow back to the couch so that when she woke Joe up, it would be obvious to him that she was on the couch sleeping. So she had thought that out, right? That the pillow was on the couch. It wasn't in the baby's room. She said she tried CPR. Quote, I did do CPR, stupid as it sounds, but I knew that she wasn't alive anymore. This is her baby she's talking about. When the detective asked her why she would kill her own baby, she said, because she was always crying and I couldn't do anything right.
She's a baby. That's what they do.
On February 5th, 1986, Marybeth Tinning, 43, was arrested and charged with the murder of her 4-month-old daughter, Tammy Lynn. Here comes the finger point, Jen. Here comes, which you and I were doing it earlier, because of course we were. Who missed it, and why wasn't more done to protect the babies? Authorities would cite the different locations, the different hospitals, and the doctor's office as being what seems obvious now, more difficult to see. I don't know about that. After her arrest, the DA, that's the district attorney, decided to dig in and see what else they could find. 3 of the children were exhumed and examined again by Dr. Michael Baden and Dr. Thomas Aram. 2 of the corpses were too decomposed to gain any evidence or information from. This is the next part where you think, who's running the show? The 3rd body that was exhumed was taken from the wrong grave site, meaning it was not the right body. Meaning it was not, what? Yeah. Who's running the show here? The decision to move forward on charges with the killing of Tammy Lynn proceeded, as they believed that this was their strongest case in which to get a win. The murder trial of Marybeth Tinning began on June 22, 1987. Prosecutor John Porsche would argue that the statements Marybeth made during her interview were not coerced, and that once the jurors read her full statement, they would definitely come back with a second-degree murder verdict against Marybeth Tinning. Defense attorney Paul Callahan simply wanted to see what Tammy Lynn died from, and that this would be the key to getting to what happened to the baby and how Marybeth was not responsible for it. Okay. Several doctors and medical experts would testify. A doctor by the name of Dr. Bradley Ford told Marybeth that the family should invest in a baby monitor given the trend of babies dying in the family. But Marybeth did not get one. She ignored his advice. Dr. Thomas Aram testified that Tammy Lynn had not died from SIDS but was smothered, as this was the only possible conclusion. Dr. Jack N.P. Davies testified that he believed this family had an unknown affliction that had not yet been named and that it was genetic. Others would testify that there was no way any of this was genetic, and the only way to be sure was if they had another baby.
What?
Yeah, she's too old. He worded it weird. I thought the same thing. But he was saying that there's really no way to prove that this is or is not genetic. The only way
until
it would be
they
possible,
would have to have a baby again, and then we could figure it out.
Or if one had survived, to test the DNA. So the DA Porsche reminded the jury to remember their common sense during closing arguments. Simply impossible that 9 babies from one family all died while young and always in the care of their mother. Defense lawyer Paul Callahan reminded the jury to remember fair play. As in, if they believed Marybeth acted weirdly, that doesn't mean she's a baby killer. Like, you can be weird, but that doesn't mean you're a baby killer.
But still.
Mm-hmm. Marybeth Tinning chose not to take the stand in her own defense, and this did not set well with the jury. Marybeth would also claim that her statement was forced, as police made her confess. And, well, she was just so tired, she just did it. She just confessed. She would add that the officers told her that if she did not, I can't. She would add that the officers told her that if she did not admit it and admit that she was responsible, they were going to break into the graves of those babies and rip them limb from limb.
Oh.
I highly doubt it police officers would tell her this. I'm just saying.
I agree with you, yes.
The jury would deliberate over 3 days. On July 17th, 1987, Marybeth Tinning was convicted in the murder of Tammy Lynn, showing, quote, a depraved indifference to human life. As the verdict was read, Marybeth started to cry and dropped her face into her hands. The jury would later say that they weren't sure Marybeth meant to kill the child, but it was her statements to police that helped make the decision. Joe, good old Joe Tinning would say that although the jury did their job, he disagreed with their decision. Oh, Joe.
What?
He thinks his wife's innocent.
No, I know. I'm just kind of, okay. That's just blind love there. That's
it's blind, deaf, and dumb. Hold on. Just wait. On October 2nd, 1987, Marybeth was sentenced by Judge Clifford T. Harrigan. Prosecutor asked the court for the maximum sentence of 25 years to life, while the defense attorney, of course, requested the minimum of 15 years. When the judge asked Miss Tinning if she had anything to say, she read from a prepared statement. I want you and the people in this courtroom to know that I am very sorry that Tammy Lynn is dead. There is not a day that goes by that I don't think of her. I miss her very much. I just want you to know that I played no part in the death of my daughter, Tammy Lynn. I will try to hold my head high and accept the punishment that society and the court requires for the crime I was convicted of. I did not commit this crime, but will serve the time in prison to the best of my ability. However, I will never stop fighting to prove my innocence. The Lord above and I know I am innocent. One day the whole world will know that I am innocent, and maybe then I can have my life back once again, or what is left of it.
Wow.
Maybe did you? I didn't hear that she was sorry that her babies died or anything in it.
But
did you?
She's going to prove that she's innocent.
You know, OJ's still looking for those killers of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman too. Marybeth was sentenced to 20 years to life. As she was led from the courtroom to the jail, people yelled some not so nice stuff at her, as you can imagine. Choice words flying her way.
I've got some choice words for Marybeth also, but yeah.
In August of 1989, Marybeth was indicted for the murders of 6-month-old Nathan and 16-day-old Timothy. 16 days old. That is a brand new baby. Like, you're not even used to him being home yet. Due to the lack of evidence, the charges were dropped, and Marybeth would never face any additional charges in regard to her other children. Now, the reason to why Marybeth would have murdered all her children still remains a mystery. Although, of course, there's been some theories. Let's take a look, shall we?
We shall.
The most obvious is Munchausen syndrome by proxy. By proxy. This bizarre affliction centers around a caregiver harming their loved one to garner attention and sympathy. Now, this can include keeping them alive but sickly, like Gypsy Rose Blanchard, or going to the extreme and killing them, such as little Garnett Spears, who was killed due to brain swelling induced by repeated salt poisoning by his mother. Remember, she snuck it in his IV?
I do.
Friends would say that all the funerals for each of the babies, Marybeth liked, I would even say loved, the attention she would get. Now, the only thing that did not meet this scenario was that baby Jennifer was, in this case, there was an actual cause of death. She was not just a baby born sickly. So she was the third of her children, but she was the first to pass away. If you remember back, Jennifer had died shortly after Marybeth's father had died. Jennifer would only live 8 days and never left the hospital, citing that her death was caused by meningitis. So Jennifer's death was the only one that we think that was really natural causes, I guess. However, Jen, this is a little graphic, but not my words. In the book Confessions of a Medical Examiner by Dr. Michael Baden, He explains what he believes happened to baby Jennifer. Dr. Bodden would state, Jennifer looks to be the victim of a coat hanger.
Oh,
Marybeth
Lord.
Tinning had been trying to hasten her birth and only succeeded in introducing infection. And in this case, it was meningitis. Police theorized that she wanted to deliver the baby on Christmas Day like Jesus. She thought her father, who had died back in October, would have been pleased. Mm-hmm. So she wasn't a natural death.
So she tried to induce labor on Jennifer by using a coat hanger.
That would be correct.
Probably break the water and instead harmed her, causing infection. That's fantastic. What? My God, Marybeth, what a
messed up. To further back up that theory, there's a book called From Cradle to Grave, The Short Lives and Strange Deaths of Marybeth Tinning's 9 Children by Joyce Egginton. And she said that she agreed with the good doctor and said that Marybeth wanted the baby to be born on Christmas Day to honor her father, and said that nurses knew that Marybeth had tried to induce the birth of Jennifer so that the baby would be born, the reincarnation of her father in heaven. So the nurses in this book...
Was her father born on Christmas Day? Is that why it was is it just some kind of...
No, he died in October. I don't know. Who knows what goes through her head? Now put on your seatbelt for this, because this is a little interesting. At the age of 75 years old, Marybeth Tinning was released on parole on August 21st, 2018, after serving 31 years. She is said to still be living around the Schenectady County area with her husband, Joe Tinning, who remained at her side throughout her entire prison sentence. What?
Well,
what?
I don't know what to say about that. He took the vow seriously, I guess.
Yeah, till death do you part, and he almost died. So yeah,
exactly.
I think he took it.
Yeah.
So that is the story of Marybeth Tinning. And I just, I know it was a different time, but...
No, it's not that different. Sorry.
Maybe 1 or 2, maybe even 3, but 9? 9? And, I think where she messed up, she's messed up, but killing the adopted child, because everybody could kind of say, well, see, look, Michael's fine. Michael's living. It had to be genetic, but she couldn't do that,
It was she wanted sweet, poor Marybeth.
Mm-hmm. And I think what all started this is all I can think. I don't know. But I think when baby Jennifer died, she liked that attention. And
she was just, her father died. I'm sure she got attention for being his daughter. Your father passed. I'm so sorry. And then when Jennifer died, I'm sure that on top of her father's death really brought the pity to her. Yeah. And then it just...
And seeing it. And so then she got, I guess, lack of a better word, she kind of got high off that. Because it was weeks later, another baby died.
Right. She wanted that. She wanted everybody talking about her and poor thing.
Oh, they're talking about her. Look at us in 2023, still talking about her.
That is unreal.
I love babies so much. Like, I can't even imagine.
No. And you do get overwhelmed with children, and if they do cry and everything, but my God,
you go put them in the baby crib where they're safe, and you walk away.
Please, and if anybody's listening and they're having problems, please call someone, anyone, or just sit outside for 5 minutes. Don't harm your child. It's not. And
too, this what's postnatal depression? What do you call it?
Postpartum depression. Yes, there's postpartum depression, and then severe postpartum psychosis, which is fairly rare, but still.
And, to just mention this, Michael was 2.5 when he passed. So, and he was not biologically hers. So if you're saying maybe she had that, maybe, but then why did he die? Yeah. She liked the attention.
She wanted the attention.
Awful. So that is that story. And, yeah. Do you think people in town know it's her? I guess they do.
I would think that they moved. I would have to believe that
they moved right back up to Schenectady.
But Schenectady is not exactly a small town, I'm sure. I'm sure that
though.
They announced that she was leaving too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
People are strange, man. So there you have that.
Baby killers are the worst. They really are.
No words. That's why I say I don't even know what to say.
Have you been watching anything?
Actually, I just started something today, and I can't wait to wrap this up and get back to it.
Oh, nice.
I know, and I've never heard of it, which I'm shocked because you know me. Came out last year. It's on Apple TV called Blackbird, and it has all my favorite things in it. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I started it, but something happened and I didn't get her back to watching it. I love Apple TV.
Yeah.
They've got such great shows.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. So it's got mafia and serial killers. Those are my things.
Those are two things.
Pretty exciting about that. Let's see. Did you ever watch the Subway Jared Fogle thing?
No, I have not watched that.
Awful. It was out.
He's awful.
Terrible person.
Yeah, he is.
What about you? What have you been watching?
Last night we watched Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Was it good?
It was fun. It was good. It was goofy. I'm very shocked that it won the Academy Award. It's not an Academy Award winner in my book. I'm glad it did, but I did enjoy it. No, it's totally not typical
for them.
Very goofy, and normally they're not goofy movies, right? Let's see, finishing up True Blood, like I said.
Again.
Loving it. Again.
Mentioned that. Yep.
Again.
Is it held up pretty well? Like, age-wise, is it held up pretty well?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's kind of fun to see the 2010 fashions and stuff like that, you know. Yeah. But, you know, you got to love Eric and Sam and Alcide.
Oh, I do. I do.
I love them so much. I do. I mean, Camille woke up to a text the other day saying, who would you do first, Sam, Eric, or Alcide? Because they're both, I mean, even watching it, I look at my husband and I'm like, Sam is so hot. And then I'd go, but yeah, Eric's really hot. Eric's really hot too. And I'm like, damn, Alcide, damn. Because, you know, and then Steve's sitting there going, I don't remember this being as sexual.
It was pretty, yeah.
I don't remember all this sex. And I'm like, I do. Yeah, I do.
Pretty hot back in the day.
I remember it. No, but it's good. It's a good story.
I'm wanting a really, really good show like that to come out again. That, like,
me
really
too.
Just hooks me in, you know?
Right.
Like another True Blood, another Breaking Bad, another Sopranos, something good.
And like True Blood isn't like a huge intellectual type.
No, but you get
TV show, but you get into it's a soap opera, supernatural.
It's a vampire soap opera.
Exactly, and it's good. But I'm telling you, I don't know. And Bill Compton gets on my nerves. I
always kind of liked him, but
he gets on my nerves. Anyway, let's see what else. Finished Last of Us. That was good. Good season. I think we talked about that already. But otherwise, no.
Have you watched or started watching? Somebody recommended it at work. Severance. I think it's called Severance.
No, but that's on my list. Severance is on my list. And
they said it's really good. The lady I work with said I sat down to start it. I never got up. I finished the entire season. I was like, oh, okay.
I started, I think it's called Dear Edward. I believe that. What channel is that on?
I've never heard of that, I don't think.
It's a drama series. It's on Apple TV. I believe it deals, the first episode, it hasn't gone into it, but it has something to do with the plane crash and a survivor. Yeah, that's good.
I'll check that out.
It's a boy who survives a plane crash that kills every other passenger, including his family. Yeah, it's good. I've just finished like most of the first episode. But like I said, Apple has a bunch of good TV shows. Ted Lasso, third season just came out.
I've never watched Ted. That's next for me. Last time I bought Apple TV was because of a morning show, the morning show. And it was super expensive. But this was like 2 years ago or whatever. And now I was like, I've been missing out this whole time. It's only like $6.99 a month.
Yep.
What?
Yep. Shrinking's another good one. Harrison Ford, Han Solo. And, God, what is his name?
I can see that because I saw it. He's like squeezing his face. I can't remember.
Yeah. He's the guy from How I Met Your Mother and Dating Sarah Marshall or something like that.
Jason
Segel.
Yeah. Boy, the two of us will figure it out.
I know. Servant is supposed to be good. I mean, there's like everything on there is high quality. It's like what HBO used to be when it first came out, right? Yeah. Like everything HBO put out turned to gold.
Yep. No,
So
I agree.
I definitely suggest Apple TV.
I just added a few to my list. Thank you very much, Jen. Appreciate that.
I need to get back to see Blackbird because everybody raves about it.
Oh, it's good.
And like I said, I started it, but something happened and I didn't get back to it. So
yeah, it's good. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And that little boy is so cute. It's Taron. I don't know how to say his last name. Taron, who was he played Rocket Man. John.
Yeah, he is
say
adorable.
Edgerton, but that's not it. That's not his last name.
He is adorable.
All right, we have anything else we got to say?
Nope. I want to remind everybody that I will be in Birmingham, Alabama on May 6th for a live show at the Wild Roast Coffee Shop. I will be with my friends at Corpus Delecti, or my friends with Corpus Delecti, Southern Gothic, Already Gone, True Crime Bullshit, Crime Lines. They're May 6th. You can go to wildroastcafe.com and buy your tickets. And then Cam and I are going to be making an appearance at the True Crime Podcast and Paranormal Festival in Austin, Texas on August 25th and through the 27th. Come see us. We'll buy you a drink. You can go to truecrimepodcastfestival.com, use code OTCP, and get your discount. So it's a lot of fun. We strongly suggest if you're in the area or if it's, kind of a short drive to come see us. You'll have a good time. Whole bunch of other podcasts. Yeah, you'll meet there's a whole bunch of podcasters that are going to be there. Tara Newell, the daughter from Dirty
John? Dirty John. I think it's Dirty John, isn't it?
I think it's Dirty John. I forget. It
is Dirty John.
It's the survivor from Dirty John, the real life one. And there's a bunch of other people will be there. If you go to truecrimepodcastfestival.com, you can see everybody that's going to be there so far. And it's going to be a blast. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Blast!
So, yeah. Come meet us.
All right.
That's it. That's all I got.
All right. Remember, until next time, lock your doors.
And keep passing by those open windows.
Bye-bye.
Love ya.
Today's episode was researched and written by me, Cam. For more information about this episode, as well as all the sources I used, please check out our show notes or the podcast website at ourtruecrimepodcast.com. Our True Crime Podcast is developed and created by hosts Jen and Cam. Original music and audio mix of all our True Crime Podcast episodes is courtesy of Nico from We Talk of Dreams. Listener discretion is provided by Edward October from October Pod VHS. Our True Crime Podcast is executive produced by Nico and Dick Vane. Make sure to like and subscribe to Our True Crime Podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. We can be reached on Instagram and Facebook at Our True Crime Podcast or on Twitter at Our True Crime Pod. You can email us at ourtruecrimepodcast@gmail.com. If you really like the show, make sure to check out our Patreon at Our True Crime Podcast. Our True Crime Podcast is an OTC production.